welcome to another episode of Connections. Today I'm very thrilled to speak with the Scottish Soprano Wendy Carr.
Hi, Wendy.
Hi, thank you for having me.
It's
I'm so
excited. To have you. I feel like we just spent the entire weekend together last week because we just did the Songbirds concert.
Well, exactly. So, yeah. Basically, I just saw you a few days ago, love. Yeah.
It's our first proper time speaking, so it's really lovely to meet you. And
I know we've sent so many messages back and forth, but it's nice to actually speak, well, kind of face to face.
Yeah.
I mean, we're a few thousand miles apart from each other, but you know. Yeah.
Now, you are from Scotland, and I think it's quite interesting because it seems like a lot of the crossover music is kind of like London, Wales. So tell us a little bit about Scotland and kind of like what it's growing up musically there.
Well, it's very stereotypical for me, I think.
Yeah.
In that I grew up and I started playing the violin at quite a young age, like maybe 6 or 7. So I grew up playing classical music, but a lot of Scottish fiddle music. And I joined a local group called the Strathspey Fiddlers, which my niece is actually now a member of, which is really cool. So I joined them when I was a teenager, and we'd go to folk festivals and enter local music festivals like the Aberdeen Music Festival, Moray Music Festival, which is the region that my hometown is in. And in the group, obviously, I would play the fiddle, but I would also sing Scottish songs. I would sing in Gaelic, which is like Gaelic, but Scottish. But the thing is, I don't speak Gaelic. It's really not widely spoken here. It's not taught in schools like it is in Ireland. On the West Coast, they speak a bit more, but I'm from the East. And so I've learned all these Gaelic songs from listening to them, so it could be complete nonsense for all I know. I know, I'm just hoping that when I do sing these songs, there's no one that actually knows what the words are meant to be. So yeah, I would do that. But as well as that, I've grown up in I feel like I'm shouting at you. I must apologize.
No.
So just tell me, like, Wendy, just tone it down a bit.
No, you're fine.
See, when I start on a subject that I know about, I just go off on one. So
it's perfect.
Get ready, brace yourself. But yes, sorry. Okay. See, I go off on tangents. Yes, but as well as all the Scottish stuff, I've grown up in a really musical household. So my dad was a music teacher. He was like the principal of music at the secondary school I ended up going to for like 20 years. And he plays lots of instruments, and all of his side of the family are very, very musical. So yeah, my sister and I grew up playing instruments, reading music. I was always singing. So yeah, I've had quite an eclectic background in terms of musical genres and things like that. And my mum has always loved the shows and kind of the more fun, like ABBA and stuff like that, whereas my dad is more classical and kind of progressive rock and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a big mixture, but it was definitely influenced by the Scottish surroundings as well. So I've just, yeah, there's a bit of everything here, I would say. Even though we're in a rural area, we make the most of it. So yeah.
When it comes to, you mentioned the song, so I feel like when I think Celtic songs, I think of a lot of Irish songs, and obviously we've all heard like Loch Lomond is one of the famous, and I probably just killed that pronunciation. But what are some of the Scottish ones that we might know?
Well, so obviously Loch Lomond, it's based on a place called Loch Lomond, and it's beautiful. I don't think I've actually sung that in recent years.
You should.
I'm gonna write that down on my list. Thank you very much, Natasha. Oh goodness, there's another. The Skyboat song is a really well-known one. Speed bunny boat like a bird on the wing. And then there's another one. Dark Highland. How does it go? I can't remember that. There's too many things going on in my head. I'm too excited. See, I need to calm down. I need to just, okay, take a deep breath. Yeah, goodness. I mean, in terms of, there are lots of well-known Scottish tunes. So, like playing on the fiddle, everyone will know "Scotland the Brave," which is da 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 da. That's like the tune. Yeah. And yeah, I used to sing a song at my fiddle group. I used to sing a song called Mary's Wedding, and it goes, step we gaily on we go, heel for heel and toe for toe, arm in arm and row, all for Mary's wedding. And that's quite well known, like in Scotland anyway. and then a few kind of lesser known songs as well. So yeah, there you go.
Now you mentioned,
right, it's a lot of Irish tunes are better known, like Danny Boy and things like that. So.
Yeah, but I mean, I know that they must be there. It's just like right away, just like Danny Boy. I'm like, oh, she wouldn't be singing that, would she? So you mentioned fiddle, and then you also play piano really well. So when did you start with the piano?
Well, so my dad is a very accomplished pianist and organist, so I grew up around that. But I've never actually had piano lessons, not formal piano lessons. I've kind of picked up bits and bobs here and there, maybe from things he's shown me, but I've never actually, like I say, had proper tuition. So I'm very much self-taught. And I think just from, like oral skills and, figuring things out in harmonies and chords, that's where I came from. And if I sit down and read music, I can read one line at a time, but doing the two hands together is just, I'm just not taught how to do that. But I can sit down and teach myself how to play a piece. That's fine. But a lot of the time it's just me figuring out what the chords are to a song or something like that. And yeah, I seem to do that quite a lot now. So even though I'm so in my group, Ida, for example, I'll often kind of be there kind of playing along, even though I'm probably the only one in the group who's never had lessons. But I really enjoy it, and I'm quite happy to just give it a go, plonky plonk, and just see what happens. So yeah, and then so I've got the violin and piano, and then while I was at secondary school, for the whole time I was there, I got lessons in orchestral percussion as well. So, timpani, xylophone. I did play the drum kit for a while, but when I started doing exams, that kind of went away. I was on snare drum, but another very Scottish thing as well. But and then I taught myself flute a few years ago. I don't know. I just like instruments.
So it sounds like you have a quite knack, because I would not have guessed that you didn't have lessons when I heard you on your YouTube channel. It's quite good.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, great. You see, it's just, I'm an actor, darling. I play the part, make it look like I know what I'm doing.
So did you go straight into training classical, or did you kind of do like Broadway? Because you've got a strong belt on you also. So which came first?
Yeah, well, it was definitely the more kind of Broadway sound. I actually, when I was little, I just wanted to be a pop star, specifically Britney Spears. I just wanted to be her. So I started writing pop songs from a very young age. And I mean, so young that when I look at some of the lyrics, I think, oh my goodness, I can't believe I wrote that when I was like 7 years old. They're really quite inappropriate, but you just don't realize when you're that age, do you?
Yeah.
You just listen to pop songs and just, oh yeah. The girls, the Ida girls, they've heard of a few of them, and they vary in standard. Some of them are just masterpieces, catchy, just earworms. Others not so much. But yeah, I wanted to just be a pop star, and then as I grew up and I got more of the the kind of catalogue books of all the different Broadway songs and CDs, compilations and things like that. So I very much, when I was a teenager, it was very much focused on musical theatre, and I was, like you say, just very natural at belting and doing that kind of musical theatre sound. But having grown up around the classical, it wasn't actually until I left school at 18 when I started to get classical singing lessons. I hadn't had any lessons before then. And then very quickly I did the grade 8 exam, which is what's required to go to music conservatoire here. And yeah, so I took a couple of years out after school and worked and saved up, got classical lessons, and then went and trained in opera, classical music. So yeah, so that's that.
I have to ask you about the compilation, because I remember buying all these books, and there was like this purple Broadway book. I don't know did you have a favorite growing up that was like?
Oh goodness, I don't know kind of if you've got the same ones in the States here, but you kind of got, there's like the black and white books. There's one that's black, one that's white, and it's stage and screen. And it's got pictures, I think it's like Marilyn Monroe and Sean Connery on the front, that kind of thing. And then there's also other ones, and it's like, I think it's just songs from the shows or something. And there's also a white one and there's a black one. And they've probably got the most songs in them. But I think my favorite one was what was called It's like audition songs for female singers, and it had this range of musical theatre and pop and stuff like that. And it came with a CD with backing tracks, and that was the best thing, because even though my dad could accompany me, but then of course having the backing tracks that I could then just go and do karaoke, oh, it was great. So probably that one, but there's probably a few volumes and I don't know which number it is. So yeah, maybe with the pop songs it might be a bit outdated now. So yeah.
I don't know, when I was taking lessons, I just remember like the thrill of buying music. I think we've kind of lost some of that, and it's awesome because you can just easily transpose on music notes, right? But I miss I have all my music here. I miss that.
I know, yeah. I kind of have my stack of books and I just think, oh, this is awesome. And it's the same even with CDs still now. I know that like CDs is great for, artists like us to, have CDs, have something physical, so that followers can get it. But generally things are done digitally now, aren't they? So, but I still look at my, even DVDs, I'm like, oh, I could get a DVD of that. I don't know. It's still such a novelty for me, but I like to have something kind of physical that you can hold. So definitely with the music, I can relate to there. Yeah.
So what is your grade 8 exam like? Is it, because we kind of have New York State exams here, we have to do sight reading, that sort of thing. So is it kind of similar when you're?
Yeah, so I think there are two main schools as such. There's the Associated, okay, let me get this right, Associated Board of the Royal Schools of Music or something like that. Okay. The ABRSM. And that's kind of mainly, I think, for classical kind of things. But you also get, I think, Trinity is the name of the other one. And that's more exams for like pop. So the electric guitar, drums, that kind of, I think, jazz maybe, potentially. So the ones that I did was the ABRSM ones. And so you'd have 3 pieces, kind of contrasting pieces that you would pick from a syllabus, and also you'd have sight reading, sight singing. Was it sight singing? I think we had sight singing for the later exams. Oral skills, so the examiner would play stuff on the piano or get you to repeat stuff back or answer questions on the style, that kind of thing. And then for the instrument exams, you'd have scales and arpeggios. So yes. Which I hated with a passion. So I'm assuming it must be a similar kind of format over here as well. Yeah. Do
you remember which songs you picked for that exam?
Goodness, for my grade 8 exam, for singing, I did Someone to Watch Over Me.
Aww.
I remember doing that, and I knew that song anyway because it was on one of my CDs. I think it was Ruthie Henshaw that I had singing it. There was one, I think it was a Britain piece, the Red Cockatoos, one of the but I don't remember the name. What was the other one? Oh no, maybe that was a different example. I don't know. Maybe Someone to Watch Over Me wasn't grade 8. My memory is like a sieve. I can't remember. There was one exam where I did that one, but then another exam where I did If I Were a Bell from Guys and Dolls. Or did I? Maybe I didn't. I can't remember. That was a song that was like my main song that I would sing growing up, like as a teenager. That was like the main one. My dad would jazz up on the piano. Maybe I didn't do that as an exam, though. I can't remember.
It's all good. It's been a while.
Ridiculous. Goodness me. But yeah.
So which school then did you go into, and did you start, what repertoire did you start working on?
So do you mean like for like music college? Mm-hmm. So I went to probably the smallest conservatoire in the UK called Leeds College of Music. And like I say, it's really small. I think the classical course was the smallest course there. So they're really well known for their jazz course. They've also got music production and then like a pop music course, but the classical one was quite small. I went in and it was straight away on to kind of this soubrette, kind of soprano, like in terms of arias, that kind of thing. So I remember doing, like the Jew Fairy song from Hansel and Gretel, And then obviously you learn all about like the leader and French melody, like all those things. You just kind of get thrown in, don't you? And then you have to cover as many of the different things as possible. And I stuck with that for basically the whole time I was there. And it wasn't until my final recital where I picked a couple of the pieces myself just from what I'd listened to, and I picked some Richard Strauss, which is something completely different to what I'd been doing throughout the rest of the course, but I just liked the song, so I was like, oh, I'll just do that. I think I'd heard Rani Fleming sing it, and I was like, oh, that's the song, I want to do that one. It's called Zwijgenoen, if you know that one, Zwijgenoen. So it was basically that. I was very much, I don't know if it's the same with you, but on the classical courses, from my experience anyway, they very much don't want you to be singing like kind of musical theatre or even touching what I would call chest voice at that point. So it was very much working on my head voice. I've learned a few different terms since then, which was quite different for me. I still chose though for my final recital a song. Oh, it's from the Enchantress called Art is Calling for Me.
Oh, yeah.
And that was probably, I think a lot of the crossover singers will know that one. And it's really fun to do. I think it was my closing number. And that was probably the most musical theatre type, out of all the songs that I chose. And even then, that the head of vocal studies wasn't overly
not sure.
But I was like, well, I'm comfortable singing this, so I might as well do that for my final recital. So, yeah.
It was a little disappointing. I remember we had some friends we wanted to do like a Disney concert, and it never happened. But
yeah, exactly.
Now, did you go on to you went to another 2 years of opera afterwards, or working with a company?
No. So for a couple of years, so I stayed living in Leeds and around Leeds, and I worked with an opera company which was born while I was in my last year of college. So the head of vocal studies, the wonderful late Jane Anthony, and my musical director, conductor of my final opera, which was Marriage of Figaro, and I was Susanna, they joined forces and they created a company called Young Opera Venture. And with them, we did Marriage of Figaro again 2 years in a row, did a few shows, then the year later we did it again. So I actually played Susanna 3 years in a row, and it was in English. So it was really well received, because we were visiting a lot of rural areas, taking it on tour and performing it in Leeds as well. But to some wonderful theatres in Wakefield. It was lovely. And as well as that, I did kind of what were called opera appetizers, which were some of the best themes from well-known operas like Carmen and The Merry Wives of Windsor, lots of things like that. So I did that, and I was teaching singing, and I was working part-time in a shop. But it wasn't actually, it was kind of a year and a half into that, I decided that I wanted to go and train in acting. So I actually didn't go and do an opera course after that. I went, at the very last minute, applied for drama schools in London just for 1 year vocational, no essays required, that kind of thing. All those kind of courses. Last minute, went down and auditioned, and then, the summer after that, I moved down to London and started my course in acting. So kind of went from classical and opera into acting with there wasn't no music, but very, very, very little singing on the course. But that was fine. I wanted to be thrown in, so yeah.
And you have a wonderful show reel on your YouTube channel. So what kind of roles did you do with your acting?
So I mean, when we were training, it very much, again, it was a similar thing. You're just thrown into so many different. There was one, for example, when we did pantomime, which I know probably isn't very much of a thing over with you. I don't know. It's a very British thing.
Yes.
But when we did pantomime, and we had 5 days of rehearsal, then we did a week of performances and visiting different schools. And for that, they would just throw us into our most comfortable casting, our stereotypical casting. So I was Cinderella for that. Great. Which I had no problem with. but then a lot of the time they would be trying to go against the grain to kind of test us and get us to, new challenges. As you go through the course, they'll know what you need to work on. So yeah, I mean, I did a Lady Macbeth. I did kind of some more crazy roles in the Comedy of Errors, so I wasn't Adriana in that one, which would be the more natural casting, but I was like the kind of crazy shaman character and that kind of thing. Yeah, and of course, a lot of that, they very much would focus on trying to work on your accent. So I have a regional accent compared to, their RP or Southern, which is kind of like a standard accent for the southeast of England. And so they knew, I think because I've got like vintage look, I don't know, like my face lends itself well to 40s and 50s, but also it could do like period dramas and stuff. They knew that I would likely need an RP accent, received pronunciation, a lot. So they worked on that with me. I had extra lessons to kind of really draw that in. So yeah, that was with training. But then following, when I left the course, and I had I got an agent from my showcase, which is amazing. An acting agent, very, very small boutique agency. But all the parts that I was getting auditions for kind of had a musical aspect to them. So I had a few kind of corporate filming jobs, but nothing that ended up being, in big plays or any TV roles or anything at the time. But I was being cast in, a children's show that involved puppets and singing. And then I was cast in Princess Ida, which is the Gilbert and Sullivan. That's where I met the Ida girls. That kind of thing, and a few other roles like that. And I was starting to think, actually, I thought I might go down this avenue, but all these other doors are opening, so I might as well just take these ones. So here's me thinking that I would just go down the acting route, but then clearly it just didn't turn out that way. So I feel like I've just been speaking at you for ages.
No, you're very interesting.
Yeah,
it's wonderful. So did expanding kind of your acting range and working on those things that wouldn't have been maybe your natural fit, did that change the repertoire that you wanted to do when you started focusing more on music again?
No, I mean, not particularly.
Okay.
I think, but the thing is, because I've always enjoyed a variety of things anyway. So I'd always, do songs or anything that I wouldn't necessarily naturally go to, but I would just, I'd hear something and go, I want to sing that one, I think it was similar with roles, for characters. I just like to push I think I could be cast as like kind of the soubrette soprano, which was always what I was going to be cast as in opera, so the equivalent of that, kind of maybe not innocent, but but I equally would want to play like the bad guy and that kind of thing. So I think I've always kept an open mind in terms of casting, and I know that in terms of because that, for anyone that doesn't know, it's very much based on what you look like, not your looks, but what you look like. If they can see you as that character, then you're more likely to get an audition for something, Yeah. So I'm very much aware that I might not be put forward for things, if they don't think that I would suit that casting. But yeah, I've always just had an open mind for, whatever part or anything that comes up. It's fun, isn't it? Makes it more fun that way. Yay.
Well, and you've done, like, on your channel, you've done both from Wicked. You've done both Glinda and Alphabel. So would you like to do like both of them, or Alphaba? Sorry, what did I say? Alphabel.
Absolutely. I want to do Louise Dearman. That's what I want to do. She's a British actress, and she's played both Alphaba and Glinda on the West End. That's what I want to do. I so want to do that. It's a shame because I'm 5'8". I don't know if you ever notice kind of when I'm lined up next to the Ida girls, I'm just a little bit not. But I've heard that in terms of casting Glinda, I think it's to do with the bubble or something, that she can't be above a certain height. So
oh wow.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, those would be just two of my absolute dream roles. Completely different,
Yeah.
opposite characters, aren't they? But I just equally I couldn't choose between them. I love them both. So yeah, you never know. One day, who knows?
And I think it's always great though too when they kind of go out of cast. So you'll see the same kind of, person playing this role, and then when you get a different person playing it and they bring something, like it just shakes it
Yeah.
up, and you're like, oh right, maybe this character could go a different way. So you know what?
Yeah.
We got to have a taller Glinda, Galinda.
Exactly, right. And the thing is, I've read about other casts like over the globe, like internationally, that's the word, where the Glindas are taller than the Alphabas, so I don't know what. Yeah, it would be great if we didn't have to stick to that way around, but if it is to physically do with the set, and if I can actually fit in, then fair enough. But they just need to make the bubble bigger. Yeah.
I mean, we can have a couple bubbles, it's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Just give me flat shoes instead of heels. Problem
Perfect.
sorted. I don't know.
So you mentioned meeting Ida girls. So you were one of the originals of that group then, yeah?
Yes, yeah. So it was, goodness, 6 years ago now, and it was a very small cast. So there were six young males, six young females, and then we had the wonderful Simon Buttress, who's kind of a name in the Gilbert and Sullivan world, and he was in the cast as well. So just 13 of us in a very small off West End venue, like fringe venue, and I mean, that was the show that changed my life. I think in terms of my personal journey and growth, I probably just didn't really know who I was properly until then, and we all made just such good friends, and I couldn't wait to get to the theatre every day. I would be there so early, and I was there. I don't know why I elected myself to do this, but I just turned up and started fixing everyone's costumes and ironing stuff, and I remember, I just turned up so early every day just because I wanted to. But yeah, after that show, because it was only a month-long run, like 4 weeks, and we all wanted to stay friends and keep singing together, because so many of us had that, like, we didn't want to just do classical, we didn't want to just do musical theatre, we all like such a range of music. So yeah, 4 of us got together. One of the girls, who's no longer in the group, she's back in Australia, but she'd been in a kind of classical crossover group previously, and so she'd wanted to get something together for a while. So it was her idea, but it's very much grown and adapted and quite different to her original idea for the group now. But yeah, so yeah, 4 of us got together. We started writing arrangements, started getting some promo material together. Georgie's the queen of like networking, so she was kind of, she knew who she wanted to contact and what she wanted to get, so we started doing the cruise ships. It just kind of, it grew very, very quickly. Once we started really getting on with it, it just, it blew up. So it definitely just changed my life, so for the better, for good, like they would say.
Good. Do you have a favorite performance that you've done with Ida? Because you guys have sung various fun places.
We've done some really cool things. Like, we've been very lucky. To be honest, like, every performance that we do is just, we enjoy it so much. Every time we sing together, I think we all equally feel just so lucky to be doing this job that we love, and with our such good friends, and obviously we get to see the world, and because we've created the shows, we've literally written the shows, written the arrangements, had the backing tracks, it's all us, so it's always very personal to us. Goodness, I mean, when we sold out at Jersey Opera House, so Georgie's from Jersey in the Channel Islands, which I'm sure you know, and so she produced this concert. It was a Christmas concert. This would be in 2019, and it was just so lovely. We sold it, and they were all there specifically to see us. It was billed as an Ida concert. So even though we've done some incredible performances, we headlined a festival in Australia, we've been on the luxury cruise ships, I think because that one was specifically, this is Ida, you're going to see them and no one else. It's not part of a bigger festival, it's not part of a kind of variety evening. I think that just felt so special, and it was quite emotional at the end. We had the kind of big what are they called? Where like the big explosions and then things fall down on the audience. What's that called?
I'm thinking fireworks, and that's not right. So
it's not fireworks, not inside. But you know what I mean? It was a really special night. And we released our original single, which Georgie co-wrote with Darren J. Benjamin, Home. And it was just really special because we were in Jersey at Georgie's home, and we were all about to go home for Christmas. And it was just it just meant so much. So probably the Jersey Opera House, in a very long, drawn-out story.
But I think that's what everyone loves about you, is you're super bubbly and you give us the whole story. It's not short answers. So.
I give you the whole story, every little detail.
We love it.
It's like everyone's like, right, I needed a coffee for this. Yeah.
So I think when I was speaking to Georgie, we were talking about the Kickstarter campaign you guys had. And I think, were you actually the one that kind of worked with your donors that came in and recorded? Is that you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So Laura, who is the one who's headed back to Australia, she was originally going to be going into the studio with our amazing Kickstarter backing vocalists. And for anyone that doesn't know, it was the reward for a certain donation. They could choose to come and sing on the album as a backing vocalist on one of the tracks, and Laura was meant to be doing that, but then she couldn't because she was back in Australia by that point. And the rest of us were actually on a cruise that got in on the day, so we hadn't slept. We were so jet lagged. We got in on that day, kind of went home, grabbed some food, put my things away, put a load of washing on, and then like left straight away again, went to this studio and met up with our backing vocalists, and we had such a fun time. So they were featured on Happy Christmas, War Is Over, the John Lennon, and it was so much fun, and it felt a bit like a workshop in a way, because I was like, do this now, how about you do it this way? And I think they probably thought, they probably thought I was a bit crazy, but I mean, anyone watching this can probably tell that already. But I think I was just so kind of giddy, like I was just, running on adrenaline. But yeah, it was so much fun. We had a lovely John Harvey on, as one of the vocalists. We had Heather Crosskey, which is another classical crossover fan, and it was so lovely to actually meet people that we'd spoken to, online, and it was a really good evening. So yeah.
And I feel like that's such a unique experience when you're doing one of these campaigns, like it's wonderful to get something signed, but that they'll probably remember doing that forever.
Exactly, yeah. And of course, because it was so special to us that so many people had donated, like so generously, and we were not expecting that kind of response. It's just, the classical crossover community is just so loyal and supportive and kind and generous, even if not with donations, but with promoting and just actually saying, well done, I really enjoyed your performance. People are really active and engaged, and it's just, we could have never fathomed this when we created the group 6 years ago. So I think it was so special to us already, and then having them in to come and sing on the album. And of course we made sure to credit everyone who was involved in the the booklet as part of the CD, and we had photos in there, and we also featured some children's choirs from Jersey and Guernsey, the Channel Islands, and of course we made sure to have all of them in there. And it just, I think it meant so much already that really, it was like the cherry on top of just a wonderful experience, really. Very lucky.
Yeah, I think it's so cool that you guys did that. And then let's talk a little bit about your YouTube channel, because For a lot of us, it's something we did, but obviously with COVID, it became, one of the places to reach people. So tell us how you kind of started with that and how you've grown equipment wise and, just with your content and.
Yeah, well, I started my YouTube channel many years ago, and I've got, I mean, if you scroll right down to the original uploads I put up, it's some of my, oh, did you? It was when I was, I forgot to mention, this is another stereotypical thing. I worked at Glenfiddich Whiskey Distillery for 6 seasons. So that's a very Scottish thing, obviously. I had my kilt on, gave tours around the distillery. And part of the team there, because again, we made such good friends there, they convinced me, look, you need to put some of your original songs online. I don't know if I should mention this. I've got this song I was kind of known for because it was just ridiculous. And it's called Running Cows. And
okay.
Basically, I just make up things. So there was one car journey, and this would be going back a long time. Like I would have been in my late teens, and I was in the car with my dad, and we were just driving along, and I just saw running cows next to me. So I just started making up this song and just singing it out loud. And my dad is used to me being completely crazy. So he just like, all right, okay. But then somehow this got out with the Glenfiddich team, and they just wanted me to sing it all the time. So when we'd have like the end of season guides night out, like, Wendy, sing the running cows song. So they'd all know it. It's really catchy, I must say. It's got like a country feel to it. Anyway, so from that, they convinced me to this. You weren't expecting that, were you? They convinced me basically to film some of my original songs and upload them onto YouTube. And then, so that's been on for a few years, and there've been a couple of other performances, just random ones that I've uploaded. But it was in the summer, it would be June 2019. I guess that's almost 2 years ago. That I decided, you know what, I really want to challenge myself to create a video every single week. And, it'll either be a song I've been wanting to learn, or one that I already know, but I've never properly performed, or it can be a suggestion from someone, any genre. I want to expand my repertoire. I want to do solo things. I want to do collaborations. So I'm going to challenge myself to do something every single week. And that's when I started Wendy Sings Wednesdays. So obviously that started, and every week it would be like Wendy Sings Wednesday 1, Wendy Sings, and so on and so forth. But it got very difficult to maintain that when not through one lack of wanting to, but because I was because I was traveling so much with Ida Girls London, that it was just so hard to upload on the day. And of course, if anyone has ever been on a cruise ship, they'll know that the internet is awful. It can be very expensive and be very unreliable and slow. So of course, uploading videos takes up so much. It was becoming extremely difficult to make happen. So it got to New Year, and I was like, right, I need to have a break from this now, because it's just, I can't maintain this. We've got this coming up. And then COVID happened. So just 3 months later, of course, suddenly all of our work vanished. Absolutely everything that we had. We've had a couple of things say, oh, we're postponing to this date. And then, of course, it's got postponed again and again and again and again. So it's not technically cancelled, but yeah, everything for the rest of the 9 months last year, that was it. So we, obviously everyone then took to YouTube and Facebook Live and whatever else to try and get, our creative output, try and get performances out there. And obviously with Ida as well, because, we were planning on releasing an album last year, recording and releasing an album. Obviously we were wanting to do more videos anyway. So kind of slowly we all started to invest in equipment and stuff that would work to do Ida things, but also individually. And Sarah, one of the Ida girls, she'd got advice from our lovely friend Al, who's worked as a sound engineer. He recorded our Christmas album for us. And he recommended a mic that you could buy to use at home that, you know, didn't kind of break the what's it called, the bank balance or whatever, but also you know, it was very good. So she got that. So we basically got these microphones. I invested in some lights, and I got advice from Jasmine for that, and those are the ones that I have right now. Because the rest of my house is dark and gloomy, not gloomy but dark. And so you know, it kind of very much became, when I first started doing the Wednesday videos, I straight away put a disclaimer out and said, look, these aren't going to be the best quality visually or, you know, sound wise, but, you know, hopefully people will appreciate the performance aspect anyway. But obviously, as things have gone on, and I've wanted to try and improve the quality of everything. So as part of that, I've taught myself how to edit videos. I'd never done that ever before. Taught myself how to mix audio. Again, had never done that before. I'd never thought I'd had much of an ear for it. And now I'm like, oh, actually, that's all right. It seems to be working. So, but of course, like I say, so many of us we basically had to do that in a way because there is no other option at the moment. And I know that a few people have taken it further than many others, and so, but I think everyone has the same intention, is that they just want to perform, basically. And I know that there's so many people out there who want to see performances, and that's such a great thing. So I mean, it's wonderful that this has become such a massive thing. And I do think actually that after COVID, if that will ever happen, I do think that a lot of this will continue even once live performances restart, because it's accessible for people around the world, you know, and I guess many people hadn't really tapped into that before now. So yeah, it's been a learning opportunity. It's been challenging, but it's been really good. Yeah.
And you do not only so for Ida Girls, that's quite a challenge to get everyone lined up, right? Because that's what I find when I'm doing videos. It's like, it's okay once I get it lined up, but that process.
Yeah. I've ended up, obviously during the process, you learn what makes your job easier. And, you know, I think, I mean, for the recent Songbirds, you'll have seen my email where I had everything laid out so specifically. I was like, do this, like trying to not confuse people, but also trying to get everything out. And so it's the same with the girls. You know, it's when we're lucky to have some recordings done, so that's quite useful because we'll just sing along as a video, so that's all mixed and it sounds good. But we have also done quite a few where each of us have recorded our own parts, and then obviously that's quite hard to get quite right. So we've got a kind of a relay system. So one person will record, and then they'll send their recording to the next person. They'll record to match theirs. And then so on and so forth to make sure that it's really tight. Obviously, it's very time consuming and, you know, takes quite a lot of energy to make sure that we get it right. And of course, it's the same, you know, not the same with the videos, but it's a similar thing in that they all send me all their videos and I have to make sure that the audio is perfectly synced up. And it's quite good because on the video editing software that I use, I've got the sound waves. You know, and
yes.
Because it's like, the 30 frames per second means it's really detailed, so I can see exactly where they're singing and where they are in the track, you know, so I can get it really spot on. But it can be sometimes harder, you know, sometimes than other times. But like I say, it's all been learning, and I feel like we've all learned so many new skills from this. But I am still kind of always reminding, like, make sure that there's a few seconds at the start and at the end so that you're not moving around when I fade in, or, you know, like, make sure that you're filming landscape and make it, you know, and I just feel like I'm just like ordering people around, like, oh, sorry. But the girls don't mind, so it's,
No, I was very impressed when I saw your instructions, and I was like, I need to be more detailed with what I'm asking for classical. I was like, this is quite good. I might steal some of your lines.
Oh yeah, do go for it. I mean, it just makes life a bit easier, you know, especially as you know, when organizing so many different performers for one event, essentially, it's very difficult to keep on top of all the different things that people have asked you or told you. And I remember there was one day when I was getting most of the videos in that I just couldn't keep track of who'd messaged me and who'd I'd replied to and who'd asked what, and I was constantly having to go back and check, and it just, like, your brain just gets overwhelmed by it. And of course, you know, although that's a big part of our life at that time, you know, each of us individually have a whole other bunch of things going on professionally and personally as well. So it's just, it can really, it's just, the more organized that I can be, the better. It's easier for me. So yeah, hopefully other people find the same thing with my details.
How long does songbirds normally take to edit and upload?
So with it depends. If I get, so I'm very specific with my timings that I ask people to do, but obviously it's hard if I get videos which are slightly too long, then I have to factor that in, because I always want someone to start, like, they can't start early unless they've given me a long video. I think it's unfair on another songbird to start early because someone else's has been particularly short or something like that. And because if they said to people, oh, tune in at 4:30, and they already started 5 minutes ago, then people have missed the first 5 minutes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it kind of is trying to make sure that when I'm filming my introductions, I've got an idea anyway of how long I need to speak for, and it won't always be absolutely exact. It might be 10-20 seconds out. That, and then as well for the Valentine's weekend, I added in, you know, introductory pictures if it meant that they were going to start too early. So I just have their picture with their name, and then at exactly the time that they're meant to start, I'd have them. Although actually on the days, because YouTube has a 2-minute countdown, it meant that everyone was 2 minutes later anyway. Like, oh. But yeah, and of course it was annoying because we had this big group collaboration song, didn't we? And my set, you know, it finished before the time, but then of course I was like, go guys, go and watch the collaboration video, it's starting now, and I still missed the start of it. Like, oh, even though I've seen it loads before because I obviously put it together, but it's like, oh. So yeah, it can vary in terms of how long it takes for the actual editing part. And of course, I always want to put people's links on that they send me if they've not already put them on themselves.
Yeah.
And that's another reason why I was asking everyone, look, tell me if you've put text on your video, because I'd found from the December songbirds that it was over like the top of the same. I was like, oh, that's so messy, but I didn't know that they put text on, because obviously I don't have time to watch everyone's half-an-hour set to see where they've put text and where they haven't. But it wasn't something that I'd experienced before the December one. So this time I was like, you need to tell me. I think there was only one time that there was a crossover, just somehow it slipped. But yeah, so in terms of editing, it normally doesn't take that long, maybe 1 to 2 hours, depending, just to kind of get it right. And I'm quite specific. I like my timings. If you ever look at the timestamps in the description box, then you'll see like 1 hour, 30 minutes exactly, such and such starts, and 2 hours exactly. If I can have it that way, that's just the dream. I would love
makes
that.
You happy.
Very, oh yeah, it's so satisfying when you get that right. But then of course for the export time, and it's probably to do with my video program, it's probably to do with the age of the laptop that I use, but it can take such a long time to export each part, and for a 2.5 hour set, I found it's taken up to 26 hours to export. And because of the playback quality in the program, I can't tell a lot of the time if something, you know, it shows you an image, then 5 seconds later it's the next image. That's the kind of playback quality I have. So I have to export either each tiny little individual sections that I want to check, like transitions and fade-ins and that kind of thing. But if I think that something's fine and I set it to export, then 26 hours later I watch it, and if there's something really wrong with it, I then have to export the whole thing again. So that's why, you know, like in the message I sent to you all, I said, look, it takes this long and I need to allow for things to go wrong, because if one thing goes wrong, I might need a whole other day just to redo it again, you know. And most people were very respectful of that. That's out of my hands. Like, I'm not asking people to send me videos this far in advance just to be difficult. It's because I physically need this time. And even then, I only got the last part uploaded the day before. It was right up to I would rather have things uploaded a week in advance so I could just sit back and relax. But things don't work out that way, do
nope.
they? I mean, do you find that as well? Do things take as long for you to export as well? Or you probably have a better program than me. I don't know.
I think it probably, I don't really know, because it tends to be like I go to sleep and then I'll just keep waking up and just like keep moving it. So I don't really know how long. I don't think it's quite 20, but bless you. So everybody, we're going to include Wendy's PayPal link. It's such a wonderful thing, you guys. Honestly, like, when Classical Crossroad Magazine does a concert, I love it because, we get the community together. But it was my first time properly just like being part of Songbirds. And it was really such a community thing to just have everyone all day literally there with you.
People, change their work shifts to make sure they're available all weekend. So they can, obviously the wonderful Robert Scullin, who came up with the whole idea of it, and would he be the curator? Would that be the term that we'd give him? And he's over in Perth, Australia, and he stayed up both Saturday night and Sunday night, because technically if he's 9 hours ahead, I think he stayed up until 6 or 7 a.m. on the Monday morning, took the day off work on the Monday so that he could watch the whole weekend. I mean, that kind of support is just, it's unbelievable. Amazing. It's so appreciated. I mean, and I think I said when in one of my introduction chats at the weekend, even if people don't do that, just the fact that they're tuning in to join us and show their support. And it's really nice in the live chats to be chatting away to everyone as well. And I think it was during, Emer Barry, during Emer's set, and she was talking about how her mum had these little ornament ducks. So she had them on the piano behind her. And then, of course, she sang Habanera. Which I think both of you and I did as well. Yeah. Habanera was a favourite of the weekend. Of course, it's all about l'amour. But of course, she had these ducks behind her. Of course, everyone was joking about how they were the chorus, because suddenly there was like, It's just, it was hilarious.
Some good fun with that.
So nice. Yeah, it's just such a friendly community. It's so lovely. Yeah.
So well done, everyone. And we'll have also the links to Ida there. What are some of the other things? I think you guys were hoping to do an album, COVID permitting, is that right?
Yeah, and that is still the plan. Okay. It is just very hard. But thing is, we recorded our Christmas album as a 3, and then with Laura in Australia, and we still managed to get that together. So it just, we make the best out of a difficult situation, as so many of us have had to do, professionally, personally, anything. So I think we might all end up recording separately, depending on when that happens. We're still kind of finalizing what we'll want on the album. So I've still got some vocal arrangements to write. And then, of course, we need to get our backing tracks made. And we need to get permission on various the copyright issues and stuff like that. There's lots to finalize before we can even get into the studio. And then, of course, it's all the post-production. We're very specific on, especially when we've got arrangements specifically written for what that we've written for ourselves. If there are particular lines that we want taken out, that maybe the person who's mixing the audio altogether might not have done that. So it's very much back and forth, making sure it's just how we want it to be. It's a big process. Obviously, it'll take months and months, but we're hoping this year, who knows when, might be summer, might be winter. We're hoping that we'll be able to get an album out, because obviously we've got our Christmas album, but it would just be so lovely to have something that's not for a particular season that people can listen to all year round. And we do have a couple of tracks on iTunes and Spotify. So we've got Home, our original single. We've got our Les Mis medley, which we released last year for help musicians. And we've also got our version of The Prayer. So we do have a few tracks available for people to listen to. But it'd be great just to have an album, just that we could say, thank you so much for the support. We're releasing this, have a listen. you know. Yeah, so it's just we're trying to figure it all out now. Basically, it's going to be a long journey, I think.
Totally understand. And then you'll continue doing your collaborations. And will you do another concert? Because your solo Christmas concert was quite something, and you had all these amazing local people involved. And
yeah, it went so well, and I'm still so like overwhelmed and surprised how well it was received. And obviously we raised money for local charities. So I'm from a town called Keith, and it's a small town in the northeast of Scotland. And I just felt so bad because my niece Aria, I mean, you can tell she's musical with a name like Aria.
yeah, right?
She has many musical friends, and of course she does a lot of music things. And you know, she's in so many different groups, and none of them could go ahead. They just all stopped flat out. In Scotland, you couldn't have any outdoor performances. In England, you could, but in Scotland, you can't. And obviously now it's all back down to proper lockdown. So I felt so bad that all these young folk who really, you know, this is the time when they will be going out and getting all the experiences, figuring out what they want to do with their lives, you know, figuring out if they want to keep pursuing this particular musical instrument or dance or, you know, all those things. It's like they don't have any of these opportunities to even rehearse together. And many of them might do online classes, but it's not the same, you know, and and of course there's just no performance opportunities for people like us, obviously, because we're professionals. We will make the opportunities and we'll just do it and get online. But for all these, you know, young folk, amateur groups, they don't have those things. Yeah. So I just thought, right, I need to do a concert here. If anyone in the local area is going to do it, it's going to be me. So right, let's get on this. And yeah, so it took a few months to get it all together. That's another thing that I was learning from, that I need to be very specific about, especially when we're working with younger kids and with, you know, amateur, you know, might not necessarily think about things. So yeah, but the response from the actual performers was just amazing. They were all so enthusiastic, and you know, they were kind of sending so many messages of thanks for having them involved. I was just like, honestly, this there's nothing, you don't need to thank me, you know, I'm just pleased that you've been able to do this, you know. And obviously at the same time raise so much money for these local charities literally in Keith and the surrounding area. And as well, because there have been no performances in the local area, like the town hadn't been able to go to the local folk festival in Keith. There's this big Christmas carol service called the Rotary Carol Service, the Rotary Club, that couldn't go ahead. So I put it on the same night that the Rotary Carol Service would have been, you know, those kind of things. So I just wanted to open it up, basically. And the response was just incredible. I'd love to do another concert. I'd absolutely love to. I did actually consider doing a concert around Burns Night, but I think because it was so close to the previous one and I'd taken on so many things before that as well, I did, you know, also kind of done the Ida concert and the Songbirds on the 5th. Like, there were so many things going on before Christmas. I couldn't do it. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to wait until I've got the time and energy and brain power to make this happen. So yeah, hopefully further down the line, and it might be with local performers, it might be with more of the Songbirds, it might be with other musicians. I've got a few ideas ticking over. So yeah, I'd love to do another concert. But yes, absolutely, I'll be keeping on with my videos on my YouTube channel. Obviously I do my solo videos, but I also have my distancing series where I sing along with other singers or musicians, and that's been really fun as well. And I'd love to continue that even when the kind of pandemic, the difficulties of the pandemic is over. I'd still love to do that. Yeah. I had a couple. My first collaboration was just in the same room with an amazing tenor called Ben Allen Francis and a pianist called Toby Nelms, and we were just in a practice room in London. We just did Tonight from West Side Story, and that wasn't a distance thing, but I'd love to keep going with the collaborations as well, because it's so nice. I've never met Emer before, or Aisling on the harp, and both of them came and joined me for the Angels Carol in December, and it's great to be able to do those kind of things, because we have all made new friends, haven't we, from all these experiences. Yeah, it's so lovely. I love it.
Yeah, it's just been bringing everybody together. It's been really musically beautifully. I mean, yeah. Obviously, the rest of the things not so great, but it's been a beautiful time for music. Yeah,
absolutely.
So, yeah. Thank you so much, Wendy. We'll have to have you back, because even you mentioned Burns Night, and I was like, the US people need to know a little bit more about that. So.
Oh yeah. Well, if I do one next year, you'll be the first to know.
Okay. I actually work during my day job for a Scottish company, so I've heard some of the stories, but yeah, people need to learn. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you need to go to a Ceilidh. If you ever get the chance to go to a proper Scottish Ceilidh, do it, because they're wild. They're so much fun. So yeah. So I'm a bad influence, sorry.
No, that's perfect. So thank you so much, Wendy. We'll have all your links here, everything, and we'll definitely be supporting the next time you guys have a Songbirds concert.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I've had so much fun.
I know. It's been so good to just chat with you. So thank you again, and we'll have you definitely on again.
Thank you. Yay.
Bye, Wendy.
Bye.
I hope you guys enjoyed getting to know Wendy a bit more. She is hilarious, and we both had hurting cheeks at the end of it from just the smiling and laughing. So definitely support her if you can. Wendy will be featured as part of Ida Girls in our upcoming Classical Crossover community concert, which will be happening at the end of this month. So save the date if you haven't already, and stay tuned. We're going to have interviews leading up to that and more mini concerts to come. So if you enjoy the content on this channel, guys, we hope that you will go ahead and subscribe. And do check out our website, classicalcrossovermagazine.us, to see new articles, not so many concert reviews at the moment, but lots of great content over on our website also. We look forward to seeing you next time.